German Chancellor Olaf Scholz said that Russian President Vladimir Putin miscalculated when he invaded Ukraine and that the war has strengthened both NATO and the European Union. Scholz was speaking after a two-day cabinet meeting near Berlin. The gathering was designed to resolve domestic issues, but it was overshadowed by the war in Ukraine. Scholz said ministers also discussed ways to reduce German dependency on Russian fossil fuels. The Chancellor spoke to the press after the meeting. Let's listen in.
One thing that is also clear from the changed state of affairs is that Putin got it totally wrong with his brutal attack on Ukraine. What he has achieved is a stronger NATO, a stronger security organisation within the eastern NATO states. What he's also got is a European Union that has joined forces, closed ranks with many other countries in the world. We have a unified sanctions package to show Russia that it needs to end this war. A package of sanctions that will massively impact the Russian economy.
German Chancellor Olaf Scholz there. Well, Chief Political Correspondent Melinda Crane is with me in the studio to talk about all this. Melinda, the German Chancellor there saying that Russia's invasion of Ukraine has strengthened NATO and the EU. We've been hearing that all along. But did Olaf Scholz say anything to suggest that Germany is strengthening its own role in deterring Russian aggression? Because Germany so far has been seen as one of the weaker links in the chain, at least militarily.
And at least until about a week ago, when Germany did decide to send heavy weapons after repeated requests from Ukraine and a lot of pressure both within this country, even from some of the other coalition partners on the Chancellor, as well as pressure from abroad. As you know, on April 28th, there was a decision that heavy weapons, including anti-aircraft tanks, will be sent to Ukraine. The Chancellor here made only a very indirect reference to that, saying that Germany would continue to support Ukraine in the ways that seem appropriate. In a way, an indirect explanation of that movement, first from saying no heavy weapons and then changing that position, clearly partly as a result of the circumstances, the continued disastrous images that we see of war crimes in Ukraine, and then, of course, also the eastern offensive of Russia. But beyond that, there is another part of deterrence that he did also talk about, and that is Germany's commitment to support Finland and Sweden if they decide in the next couple of weeks to apply for NATO membership. And that is significant because the topic of continued NATO expansion is a tough topic for many left-leaning politicians, and that includes the left-leaning wing of the Social Democratic Party. So for them to receive the Swedish and Finnish prime ministers and make this commitment, that's also quite a stretch for Germany.
Not uncontroversial in Germany. What about energy imports from Russia, Melinda? Because, you know, they are obviously essential for Russia to keep up its war machine, to pay for all of that. Did we learn anything more about how fast Germany can wean itself off of Russian gas and oil?
We heard from the economy and climate minister, who has been working tirelessly to do just that and who has some pretty astonishing numbers to present. Russian gas used to be 55% of all Germany's fossil fuel gas imports. It's now down to 35%, and oil is down from 35% to 12%. That is pretty astonishing in a matter of a couple of months. And that's crucial because, as we heard today, the EU is going to move ahead on an oil embargo. And Germany, a powerhouse of industry, really relies on those fossil fuels to run its companies. So a lot of jobs depend on this. The Chancellor had been very reluctant to go along, especially with the gas embargo, but appears to have moved on oil.
Germany's economics minister, Robert Habeck, was also part of that press conference. He floated plans to better accommodate high-skilled Russian workers in Germany. Is that part of a strategic brain drain policy, Melinda, aimed at further weakening Russia?
That may be one aspect of it, but what I think it's essentially meant to do is send the message This is Putin's war on Ukraine, but it is not a war by all Russians against Ukraine, and we are not against all Russians. We welcome those who are fleeing Ukraine, but also those who are fleeing Russia. And that was made very clear by the Chancellor on his address on February 27th, where he said very clearly, speaking to the Russian people, we are not against you. And I think that's probably the main reason behind this.
The deep cultural and historical ties between Germany and Russia being emphasized in multiple levels. Diplomatic ties between Ukraine and Germany have been strained as of late, not least by Kiev snubbing Germany's president, making it clear that they didn't want him to visit the country. Has there been any movement on that front, the diplomatic front?
In fact, the Chancellor reiterated the fact that in Germany's view, was an inappropriate snub, inappropriate treatment of the German president, and that, therefore, he, at least, the Chancellor, is not planning any imminent journey to Ukraine. That, of course, has also been criticized as essentially Germany making this be about its president rather than about the actual events going on in Ukraine. But what we did hear from both the economy minister and the foreign minister, both of them members of the Green Party, is that solutions to this are in the works. In other words, Annalena Baerbock, the foreign minister, said she is planning to make a trip. It just is not yet clear when. And the economy minister said similar things. So clearly there's a move to get past this. But it certainly has been a cloud on Ukraine-German relations.
Melinda, thank you very much. Our chief political correspondent, Melinda Crane.